This month in RAD Studio, we've got the Enterprise Component Pack from Embarcadero, as well as an update from Atanas Popov, the General Manager. We have news about Bold for Delphi, as well as a new open source socket communication framework called NetCom 7. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about our acquisition of the Smart Inspect product. Hi, welcome to this episode. My name's Malcolm Groves from Code Partners. Let's get straight into it. First up this month, we have some news about a new promotion from Embarcadero. A couple of things they've brought back for a limited period of time upgrade pricing. So if any of you have been holding off upgrading from an earlier version because the upgrade pricing went away a couple of years ago, that's now back, but for a limited period of time. As part of that, if you're on Enterprise or above, there's also what they're calling this Enterprise Component Pack, I think is the name of it. Basically, it's a set of components and tools from a whole bunch of third-party vendors, quite extensive set of vendors that you can download and start to use in your solutions. The list of vendors is pretty long. There's IPworks have got a WebSockets component. DevArt have provided their Secure Bridge set of components for doing a whole bunch of things, HTTPS and SSL and SFTP, SignalR, a bunch of communications. There's Installerware, there's Twine Compile for C++ Builder. There's a version of the Delphi parser migration kit. T-Grid from Steamer for both VCL and FMX, one that I'm particularly happy to see in there, which is TMS Aurelius, an ORM framework, which I love. I've done videos on before. Winsoft have gone over, well, not, I won't say overboard, that's not for me to say, but they've really gone to town. There's about 5 pages of components in here that they've provided, all covering all sorts of stuff. You kind of have to look at this list just to believe how much they've provided, as well as wall-to-wall have provided FirePowerX, their components. So there's a whole bunch of things in here. I'll provide a link to an article on our website which shows you, which gives you various links to who's eligible, what's included, all that kind of stuff, as well as how you can also check out the upgrade pricing and those sorts of things that are available. While we're talking about Embarcadero, also this month there's an update from Atanas Popov, the general manager. I always find these interesting just to see where the management of Embarcadero are looking and thinking, what they're thinking about. There's a bunch of stuff in here around what they're doing with open source, what they're doing around refocusing some attention in the market around desktop first development. We've seen mobile first, we've seen web first. They're trying to give some attention to this idea of desktop first. Bunch of things worth reading in there just to see where they're what they're thinking about. I kind of like these, as I said, also because in the past we haven't always had visibility into what the management are thinking, and so since Atanas has been on board, he's done these GM updates fairly regularly, and I kind of think it's a good thing. Yeah. So again, we'll provide a link to that. Now, as part of that update, when he was talking about some of the things they're doing around open source, he kind of dropped this little item in there around open sourcing Bold for Delphi. Now, if you've been around for a while, this is a name that might come back to you. This is back in early 2000s, maybe 2001. I can't remember the exact time. Borland at the time bought a company called BoldSoft, which had some really cool technology for doing object-based development and model-driven development inside Delphi. That then became the Eco product for .NET, which has gone on again outside of Embarcadero and Borland to continue as a .NET product. But there's been a sort of movement behind the scenes of customers of Bold for Delphi for it to be either updated or released as open source. I'd kind of seen this off and on over the years, but fortunately, whoever, the people behind it didn't give up and they kept pushing. And so it's really great to see that the Embarcadero have announced that they will be open sourcing that. Not much more news about when or whatever. I imagine it's not had a lot of attention given to it in recent years. So when they release it, I doubt it'll be immediately something that you can just grab and install and play with. But the source will be out there, and it seems like there's enough of an interested community around it to start, updating it for the latest IDEs, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So really cool to see that happening. While we're talking about open source, another bit of news that I've seen this month is around a open source sockets library called NetCom 7. Yeah, it's cross-platform. The big claim to fame about it seems to be around its performance, especially around how it handles threads. So as distinct to something like Indy, which is out of the box, this handles threads in a different way, and so can in some profiles of applications can maybe be a better solution in terms of performance. Now, I haven't delved very deeply into it, so I don't believe that it's as broad as something like Indy is. I think it's much more focused on the sockets end rather than necessarily trying to support all of the internet protocols and those kinds of things. But definitely worth having a look. I'll put a link down below. Seems to be reasonably active open source project, and I've seen a number of people comment that they've switched inside their projects to using it from other libraries and have had positive things to say about it. Yeah, so definitely worth to have a look. Lastly, this month we had some big news just earlier this week, actually. We've been for a little while working with Gurok, who were acquired by Idea a little while ago, to acquire their Smart Inspect product. I'll give you a link to our announcement and Gurok's announcement down below. But earlier this week, we finalized that deal. So we've now acquired the rights to the Smart Inspect product. We have a bit of work in front of us before we can get that first release out the door to the existing customers, and in fact, to start selling it to new customers. Partly because we have to replace some pieces that weren't part of the acquisition. For example, the licensing system in the old Smart Inspect product is not part of the acquisition, so we've got to roll a new one in. Plus, there's a bunch of updates we need to do. It hasn't had an update in a little while, so there's updates in the console, there's updates in the client libraries, that kind of stuff. But we're super excited about this. Longer term, we want to see this broaden out. I mean, currently it supports Delphi, .NET, and Java. We want to see that broaden out to other languages, other platforms, that kind of stuff. We're super excited about it. But I'll give you a link to our announcement, and then I'll definitely keep you informed on what we do. Yeah. That's it for this month. I think I'm finally getting the hang of keeping this a little bit shorter. Any feedback's very welcome. There's links below to all the different places you can comment. You can give us compliments, give us criticisms, whatever it is. Otherwise, hope you have some interesting code to write this month, some interesting projects to work on. Enjoy yourselves and stay safe, and we'll see you on the next episode of This Month in RAD Studio. Cheers.